Hey, it's Anna. Welcome back to my channel. And today we are going to be ranking randomly the series that I honestly haven't read. So you might be thinking how I'm going to rank books that I haven't read. And I'm just going to rank them based off of how interesting I think the entire series will be. Every book is 3 books or longer. So that to me is trilogy series length. And they've all come out at different times. I think different genres. I just thought this would be a fun way to explore my bookshelf and maybe inspire me for what I want to read next, because honestly, coming up in April, I know I have a lot of arcs to read, but outside of that, I'm not really sure what I want to pick up next. So I thought this would be a fun way to maybe inspire me, and then I might do one for some of my standalone books, because I have a lot of standalone books that I haven't read. So I've put everything into this wheel, and it's going to help us decide. I want to do at least 2 rankings of just 5 books. I have 17 on this list, so I feel like I really don't know what I'm going to get, and I also don't know what any of these are about, so we're going to be able to research them together, which I think will be fun. And if you have read any of these, definitely let me know how you like them, because again, I might decide to pick them up. I do own the majority of these series in their entirety, but there are a few that if they get pulled, I'll talk about which ones I don't own. And there might even be some things, obviously, I don't know about these series that we'll learn along the way, that maybe there are even more books in those series than I thought. So let's get our first pick. City of Bones as the first pick. Ooh, okay. All right, City of Bones, the Mortal Instruments series. I feel like these books I've seen forever. I do own the entire Mortal Instruments series, and I don't own like all the other side series that come with this, but I know Cassandra Clare's discography is very long and very lengthy. My plan how to learn about these books is I'm going to look them up on Goodreads, look at their average rating, maybe read a few lines of their description, and then see where it's going to rank 1 through 5. So City of Bones actually has a 4.07 rating on Goodreads. And what I like on Goodreads, at least, is that I can click into the Mortal Instruments series and look at the other books. So it looks like there are 6 books total in this series, all of them over 4 stars. The lowest rated one looks to be book 4, City of Fallen Angels, with a 4.08, but also that has a ton of ratings still. I mean, all of the books except City of Heavenly Fire have over 500,000 ratings. So clearly this is a very beloved series. Let's see a little bit about what the back says, at least of book 1. It says, when Clary Frey heads out to the Pandemonium Club in New York City, she hardly expects to witness a murder, much less a murder committed by 3 teenagers covered with odd markings. This is Clary's first meeting with the Dark Hunters, warriors dedicated to ridding the earth of demons, keeping the odd werewolves and vampires in line. It's also her first meeting with gorgeous, golden-haired Jace. Within 24 hours, Clary is pulled into Jace's world with a vengeance when her mother disappears and Clary herself is attacked by a demon. But why would demons be interested in an ordinary mundane like Clary? And how did she suddenly get the sight? The Dark Hunters would like to know. Okay, I feel like I'm gonna take a risk with this one, solely because I love YA series. I love other worlds that also mix with the world that we know. For example, like the Pendragon series is one of those that takes us to different worlds, but we stay in our human world. I'm honestly gonna rank this at number 1. I do think this would be a favorite series of mine. Now it's gonna be interesting with the rest of the books, at least in the first 5 list, to see if any pique my interest and I regret my number 1 choice. All right, let's see what we get next. The Revenge of the Shadow King, or the Grey Griffin series. Great. I'm not saying that in a bad way. So this is one where I remember reading it as a kid. I don't remember everything that happened, but I wanted to try to reread some series from when I was a kid that I vaguely remember. So my mother and I scoured for the other 2 books, I think in these original covers, because I think maybe the covers have been redone, and we were able to find this one and the other 2 that are in this series. So let's look it up on Goodreads and see what we got. But I already don't know if putting City of Bones was the right pick for number 1 if this is the second one that we're pulling. So The Revenge of the Shadow King has a lot fewer ratings, only 5,000 compared to the over like 500,000 on every book that Cassandra Clare's books has. It's also at a 3.88. Okay, so it doesn't seem like the series has been done, but it looks like there's a related series, I think maybe by the same author. So this is Grey Griffin series, and then there's also the Clockwork series it looks like, but it also looks like it's tied into the Grey Griffins. So curious how that works, but we're gonna focus on the 3 in here. So Revenge of the Shadow King King Book 1, 3.88 rating. We have The Rise of the Black Wolf, which has a 4.09 rating. It only has 2,000 ratings though. And then we have The Fall of the Templar with 1.7 ratings at 4.1. So again, seems like a pretty well-liked series. And again, if I remembered this from childhood and wanted to reread them, I feel like there was something magical about this book, but let's see what it's about. So can the Grey Griffins save their town from the evil Shadow King? Max Sumner and his three best friends, Harley, Ernie, and Natalia, who form the secret club the Grey Griffins, seem to be the only people in their very normal Minnesota town to notice the strange things have started to happen. When creatures like goblins and fairies and unicorns, all characters from a card game the Grey Griffins play, begin to make appearances in Max's backyard, Max and his friends know something is terribly wrong, and it's up to them to stop the wicked creatures of the cards from destroying their town, indeed their world. See what I mean? Like, this is another one of those YA, maybe middle grade, but like younger series where we're mixing elements of the fantastical realms with our world that we know, and it's a group of friends coming together. I feel like I would have put this at number 1, but it's gonna have to be a solid number 2, even though realistically I do think I'm gonna like reading this more than the Immortal Instruments series, but I also could be very wrong. But number 2 for this one. I think this is the strongest rankings I've ever started out with in like any of my rankings videos. 2 just absolute bangers out of the gate. All right, let's see what's next. Splintered. So this is 3 books, I believe. I actually have the other 2 right here that I got in a book advent calendar, my 2022 book advent calendar, and I thought the covers were really pretty. I was guessing, right? I didn't know fully what it was about, but looking at the other covers, I believe it's like Alice in Wonderland, but I also could be very wrong because I feel like I've said that before and then I'm wrong. Let's look and see what this is about. And there might be more. Now that I'm looking at the back cover, it looks like there might be more than just 3 books, but let's see which 3 I own, which ones I'm missing, and see, you know, where I would get those in if I'm interested in getting them. All right, so this does look like there are a core 3 books with Splintered, Unhinged, which is that one, and then Ensnared, which is that one. So those are the core 3. It does look like there's a prequel called Alice the Absent. It also looks like there's a book between book 1 and book 2 called The Moth in the Mirror. And then there is, it looks like a collection of stories called Untamed, and maybe some of the other like little novellas are in there. But let's just focus on the main 3 for now. So Splintered has over 60,000 ratings and it's rated a 3.9. Unhinged, the second book, is a 4.19 with 27,000 ratings. And then Ensnared is a 4.18 with 20,000. So again, not as well read as The City of Bones, but more well-read than The Revenge of the Shadow King. So let's see what this book is about. We have Alyssa Gardner hears the thoughts of plants and insects. Okay, that's already very interesting. She hides her delusions for now, but she knows her fate. She will end up like her mother in an institution. Madness has run in her family ever since her great-great-great-grandmother, Alice Little, told Lewis Carroll her strange dreams, inspiring his classic Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. But perhaps she's not mad, and perhaps Carroll's stories aren't as whimsical as they first seem. I feel like these are just stacked. This first ranking, and maybe all the books are going to be like this, but I feel like these 3, exactly what I'm talking about. There are parts in our real world, and then we have these fantastical, you know, tellings. This is related to Alice in Wonderland. I am a Disney fan. I am all along those lines. And so I feel like this would be interesting to see like what her visions look like, how it compares to Alice. I am a sucker for retellings. I feel like this has to go in the number 3 spot, but like, I feel like this could have also been, I don't know if I would have put this at a 1 to be completely honest, but I feel like it definitely could have had a 2 spot for sure. And I don't think I would have been mad if I was like forced to put this in a 1 spot, but we're gonna do 3. Either I just know how to pick series for myself and those are the books that I own, or these just all happen to be something I'm interested in. I don't know. All right, let's do our next choice. Game of Thrones. Okay. Now, while I don't fully know everything about Game of Thrones, I have watched 6 seasons of the TV show, so I kind of know the premise. However, I look at the book as I've looked at it before, and just some of the paragraphs look so long, so drawn on. I've heard the world building is harder in this book, so this is one series I'm actually not as inclined to pick up just from the get-go, but let's see what the world has to say about it on Goodreads. Also, I will say, so looking at Goodreads, I know that there are are 5 books, and it looks like there's supposed to be more, but I already know that they're not all out. And the fact that it has taken so long for this series, I just don't understand. And I feel like the readers of this series probably really want these other books, but like don't have them, which that just must be so tough. So this first book, Game of Thrones, is a 4.44 with over 2 million ratings. That's absolutely bananas. Clash of Kings, the second book, is just shy of 1 million ratings, still a 4.42. A Storm of Swords, the third book, is a 4.54 with 750,000 of ratings. A Feast of Crows, 4.16 with also 700,000 ratings. And then A Dance with Dragons, 650,000 ratings, 4.34. So it seems like a lot of people absolutely love this series, and it looks like the next books are supposed to be The Winds of Winter and A Dream of Spring. I don't believe those are released. It obviously looks like they have good ratings too, but I guess I don't know if that's because people are excited for the book. I'm not really sure how ratings come out before like the book is even in the hands of like ARC readers or things like that. I don't know. So, oh my gosh, this description looks really long. Let's see what we can pull out of it. Long ago, in a time forgotten, a preternatural, I always have trouble with that word, event threw the seasons out of balance. In a land where summers can last decades and winters a lifetime, trouble is brewing. The cold is returning, and in the frozen wastes of the north of Winterfell, sinister and supernatural forces are missing beyond the kingdom's protective wall. At the center of the conflict lie the Starks of Winterfell, a family as harsh and unyielding as the land they were born to. Sweeping from a land of brutal cold to a distant summertime kingdom of Epicurean plenty, here is a tale of lords and ladies, swords and sorcerers, assassins and bastards who come together in a time of grim omens. See, maybe this is above my reading level because I had trouble pronouncing 2 of the words. I don't know. Unfortunately, in terms of how I think I'm going to like this series, I think I'm going to have to put it out of 5. I mean, I just can't see myself really getting into this book with how long-winded it is and the fact that the series still isn't done. I feel like there's a lot just stacked against the series as a whole. I could be very, very wrong, but I'm gonna put it out of 5. All right, let's wrap up our first round of 5, if I can click the button for the spinner. So this is instantly going to be spot number 4. Let's see if that's something I regret. I Tell You I Love You. It's just a long title. I didn't feel like typing it in. So the full title is I Tell You I Love You, but then I'd have to kill you. So obviously these are shorter books, quite younger. I don't know realistically if this was like the first book I pulled where I even would have put it. So I'm interested to get into the description, see how many books there are. I feel like this series is at least completed, so definitely already better than we're at with Game of Thrones. So this is part of the Gallagher Girls series. There are 6 primary books with novellas along the way. So for our first book, it has 100,000 ratings and gives it at a 3.84 for the average. The second book, Cross My Heart and Hope to Spy, is at 90,000 ratings at a 4.13. Don't Judge a Girl by Her Cover, book 3, is a 4.2 rated book with 71,000 ratings. Only the Good Spy Young has 66,000 ratings and it averages 4.29. Out of Sight, Out of Time has 56,000 ratings and it is a 4.33. And then United We Spy is a 4.43 with 36,000 ratings. It does look like there is a shorter story after the 6th book, a shorter story after the 5th, and a shorter story after the 4th book. And it also looks like there's a prequel, this like audio original. Ooh, that's interesting. So the prequel looks like it was published 12 years after this book came out. Very interesting. So it seems like a pretty well-beloved series, especially folks who continued with the series seem to really like it. The fact that this is the only book under 4 stars makes me think people picked this up. They didn't like the first book, so they didn't continue the series. So I feel like if you like the first book, this is a series that you're going to like. Let's see what the description is about. It says, back in my room, I had 50 pages of The Art of War left to translate into Arabic, a credit card / fingerprint modifier to perfect for Dr. Phibbs, and Madame Debney had been dropping big pop quiz hints at the end of CNA. Yet there I was, rubbing my swelling ankle and thinking that I should really be getting Cove Ops extra credit for this. I looked at my watch again, 7:45. Okay, I thought, I'll give him until 8 and then hi, I heard from behind me. I could have said hi back in 14 different languages, and that's not including Pig Latin, and yet I was speechless as he came to stand in front of me. So she's clearly a spy. What she's doing, I don't know. It seems to me like my interest would be piqued in this. I feel like if I had picked it up earlier, I could have put it at like a 3 spot. I'm not exactly mad it's at the 4 spot, but I don't know how it would realistically compare to like the Alice in Wonderland kind of retelling Divergent type of series. Yeah, I feel like a 4 is not the ideal place for this, but I'm not exactly mad at it. So for our first series and how much I think I would like them, we have City of Bones at number 1, Revenge of the Shadow King at number 2, Splintered at number 3, I Tell You I Love You, but then I'd have to kill you at book number 4, and then Game of Thrones at book number 5. All right, let's start our second set of 5 ranking. Restart starting over nice and fresh. Let's see what's up first. Delirium. I really hope this is actually the first book in this series because it might not be. I'm gonna look at that first. Okay, thank goodness. It's the first in the series. I do own all 3 books of the main works in this series. It looks like there are a lot more than 3. It looks like there's a lot of novellas along the way. So Delirium is a book series that I got in the book advent calendar, and I'm looking on Goodreads right now, and Lauren Oliver also wrote Panic. I've read Panic and I've seen the show. Both are very, very good. So that is already helping this book's rating. Definitely not going to be out of 5, in my opinion, just based off of that. It seems like there's a lot of novellas along the way, so we're going to focus on the 3 main works, which is Delirium. It's a 3.95 rated book with almost 500,000 reviews. That's pretty good. Pandemonium, the second book, is a 4.03 with 238,000 reviews. And then we have Requiem, the third book. Ooh, it really takes a dip. This is, I think, the biggest dip that I've seen between the second and the third book, is a 3.73 with 148,000 ratings. That makes me scared a little bit, judging from that, because a series that reminds me of one I feel like where the rating drops so suddenly for the last book is Divergent. I'm actually going to look that up to make sure I'm accurate to see if the ratings drop, because I know my personal rating of the series dropped with the third book, and I know I'm obviously diverting here. Let's see. Yeah, so Insurgent has an average rating, which is the second book in the Divergent series, of a 3.97, and then the third book, Allegiant, is a 3.6. That is a huge drop, and that is a similar drop between these two. That makes me kind of nervous because I also did not like going from Insurgent to Allegiant. I also hated how Allegiant ended. I think as most people, we're not happy with it. But, we'll just have to see what the book is about. I don't really have a big description on the back of this book, as you can see. So I'm going to use the Goodreads description. All right, well, the opening has some of my favorite words in it. We have in an alternate United States. What do I keep saying? I love worlds that take the world we know, turn it on its head, introduce something new. So in an alternate United States, love has been declared a dangerous disease, and the government forces everyone who reaches 18 to have a procedure called the cure. Living with her aunt, uncle, and cousins in Portland, Maine, Leanne Holloway is very much looking forward to being cured and living a safe, predictable life. She watched love destroy her mother and isn't about to make the same mistake. But with 95 days left until her treatment, Leanne meets enigmatic Alex, a boy from the wild who lives under the government's radar. What will happen if they do the unthinkable and fall in love? I feel like if I had just read the description for this book without looking at the other books in the series, this would be a higher, because I love young adult dystopian series. However, I'm going to put this solidly in the middle at a 3. I could see myself really liking the first book, and then I'm sure it takes a turn somewhere down the line, especially in the third book, and then I might not like it as much. So I feel like I'm going to put this at a 3. It's a safe spot to be, in my opinion, and with the conflicting views that I'm having in my head between seeing the lower rating of the third book, but also how great I think this first book would be, I feel like 3 is a good choice. And honestly, the description makes me want to read it now, honestly. I feel like I've been looking for a dystopian book like that. So let's choose our next book for our second ranking. Pretty Little Liars. Now, Pretty Little Liars, I have done on my 365 Days of Books, which is a shorter YouTube Shorts series that I do. I've talked about the majority of the books. I don't own every book in the series because there's 17 of them, but I own 11. So I feel like that's a pretty good start. You can see the 3 that I have here. I have other ones on another bookshelf. And of course, we have the first one here. I have watched the entire TV show for this. I do think it's iconic. I'm curious how the books and TV match up. So I feel like this one is already a little higher rated because I know so much from the TV show. I'm not reading what all the books are. You can definitely go to Goodreads, but it looks like as I'm scrolling through very quickly, everything is above a 3.5, which I feel like for 16 books, pretty impressive. And the later books obviously have less ratings, but this specific book in my hand is a 3.85 with 200,000 ratings. So pretty good there. Let me read the back for you in case you haven't heard of Pretty Little Liars. It says, everyone has something to hide, especially high school juniors Spencer, Arya, Emily, and Hannah. Spencer covets her sister's boyfriend. Arya fantasizes about her English teacher. Emily's crushing on the new girl at school. Hannah uses some ugly tricks to stay beautiful, but they've all kept an even bigger secret since their friend Allison vanished. How do I know? Because I know everything about the bad girls they were, the naughty girls they are, and all the dirty secrets they've kept. And guess what? I'm telling. I feel like this is in an interesting spot for me because I think the concept is interesting and I did like the TV show. And I know the books would probably be even better than the TV show. However, 16 books is a lot from like the same people. I feel like I would just get bored total series wise. I feel like this would also have been good for the 3 spot. And I do think I would like the beginning books, but I'm going to put it in the 4 spot just because of how long it is. I don't think reading the books would actually take long. Like the font isn't too bad. It looks pretty spaced out, but 16 of them, I don't even own all 16. So we're gonna put this at number 4 for total like enjoyability of the series. I feel like our first one that almost went in numerical order compared to this one, now that we're starting at the lower end, it's gonna be interesting to see what ends up in the top spot for this second bracket. All right, let's see what our next pick is. The Unwanteds. I'm not gonna lie, of all the books that I wanted to have an excuse to research, it was The Unwanteds. So The Unwanteds is a book series that I got in the book advent calendar. I think you can kind of see them up here. So it's 7 books, with the first one being here. So I have all the hardcovers. I mean, it just looks really cool. I think it looks really good. And that's why I wanted all of them. So I really don't know what this series is about though. I just thought it was really cool. It reminded me of, and like the top of this book says The Hunger Games meets Harry Potter. I mean, come on, what comparisons to make, right? I feel like the last book that made a comparison to The Hunger Games, like as big as it was Light Lark. And I mean, that marketing was terrible. And so I feel like that book crashed. But this one, I'm like, okay, maybe there's some hope in this. It does look like these kids, sucks for those kids. So again, there are 7 books. The Unwanteds, 4.12 with 40,000 ratings. All the rest of the books later in the series have below 15,000 ratings. Island of Silence, because after this, we just go to a bunch of islands. Island of Silence is a 4.31. Islands of Fire is a 4.39. Islands of Legends is a 4.35. Island of Shipwrecks, 4.39. Island of Graves, 4.46. And Island of Dragons, 4.47. See, that's the progression I like to see, with every book getting better and better. It really gives me hope for this book series. Let's open the inside cover and see what it is about. Oh, can you hear that? I've never opened this book before. All right, so we have every year in Quill, 13-year-olds are sorted into categories. The strong, intelligent wanteds go to university, and the artistic unwanteds are sent to their graves. Jesus, okay. On the day of the purge, identical twins Alex and Aaron Stowe await their fate. While Aaron is hopeful of becoming a wanted, Alex knows his chances are slim. He's been caught drawing with a stick in the dirt, and in the stark gray land of Quill, being creative is a death sentence. But when Alex and the other unwanteds face the Eliminators, they discover an eccentric magician named Mr. Today and his hidden world that exists to save the condemned children. Arteme is a colorful place of talking statues, uncommon creatures, and artistic magic where creativity is considered a gift and a weapon. Stop. This sounds so good. I want to start reading it right now. All right. Definitely not number 5. I feel like it has to go. I'm so interested in it now. Like, especially after the description, it definitely, I don't know, like anything compared to the Hunger Games, I think is definitely a little tough in my head because the Hunger Games is such a unique world. But this does sound like there is a, group of folks who are, almost pitted against each other with these eliminators. What does that look like? Is that where there's more like actual action, kind of like the Hunger Games? Because when I think Hunger Games, I think of like high pace, I think of like fast-paced, action-packed, and like Light Lark was just not that. It was court politics. This sounds like it actually has the like high-paced action, all of that. So, you know what? I'm gonna put it at number 1. Might I regret it? I don't really know. I feel like I'm gonna put something bad at number 5 on accident now, but I definitely don't want to put this at number 5, so I'm gonna give it the number 1 spot. All right, let's see what's gonna go in the number 2 or number 5 spot. The Deal. So I've never read an L. Kennedy book, and I got 3 of these in the book advent calendar. I believe they're like interconnected standalones, which I am a sucker for interconnected standalones, can't lie. It looks like there are 5 primary books. So looking at those, we have The Deal. It is a 4.24, and it has over 700,000 reviews. The Mistake is book 2, a 4.01 with 379,000 reviews. The Score, 4.17 with 329,000 reviews. The Goal, a 3.92 with 229,000 reviews. And then The Legacy, 3.79 with 121,000. So I don't really like, again, series that's decreasing. So let's see what the book is about. Again, since they're interconnected standalones, I get it how the books can get a little different. And I feel like that doesn't hold as much weight as with like Delirium, where it was a clear series. But I don't know, still gives me a little bit of pause when picking up these books. So she's about to make a deal with the college bad boy, and it's going to be oh so good. Hannah Wells has finally found someone who turns her on. But while she might be confident in every other area of her life, she's carting around a full set of baggage when it comes to sex and seduction. If she wants to get her crush's attention, she'll have to step out of her comfort zone and make him take notice, even if it means tutoring the annoying, childish, cocky captain of the hockey team in exchange for a pretend date. All Garrett Graham has ever wanted is to play professional hockey after graduation, but his plummeting GPA is threatening everything he's worked so hard for. If helping a sarcastic brunette make another guy jealous will lift his grades and secure his position on the team, he's all for it. But when one unexpected kiss leads to the wildest sex of both their lives, it doesn't take long for Garrett to realize that pretend isn't going to cut it. Now he just has to convince Hannah that the man she wants looks a lot like him. I feel like I accidentally just told you everything that happens in this book, and that's my thing with some interconnected standalone series, is they obviously have some predictability to them, which I just feel like isn't as exciting as some of the other series personally. And like I said, I feel like the description just gave a lot of it away. So based off of this, based off seeing some of the later books, I'm going to put this at the 5 spot. Now, if I'd gotten this earlier, I think it could have been at a 4 or a 3 in terms of holding my interest. There's not too many books in the series. I think the, contemporary feel of it might have been fun to read, but because we already have other stuff ranked, this is going to go in number 5. Might this make some people mad? Probably, but looking at the genres that I enjoy, I can see why this isn't like one of my higher ones just straight off the bat. So let's get our number 2 pick for this series rankings going. Rebel of the Sands. All right, it looks like there are 3 books in this trilogy, which is really exciting. Rebel of the Sands has a 3.96 rating with 62,000 ratings. Traitor to the Throne is a 4.3. Oh my gosh. That's a huge jump to see that. That's a huge jump in a series. Wow. It does have 25,000 reviews, so not as much as book 1. So again, it seems like people who continue the series really like it. And then book 3, Hero at the Fall, has a 4.34 rating with 18,000 ratings. Seems pretty compelling to me. There's not really a description on the back. This is also a book series that I got from the book advent calendar, so I'm going to use the Goodreads description to see what exactly Rebel of the Sands is about. Again, this is instantly in the number 2 spot, but let's see if I would have actually put it there. All right, mortals rule the desert nation of Miraji, but mystical beasts still roam the wild and remote areas, and rumor has it that somewhere Jinn still perform their magic. For humans, it's an unforgiving place, especially if you're poor, orphaned, or female. Amani Al-Hazza is all 3. She's a gifted gunslinger with perfect aim, but she can't shoot her way out of Dustwalk, the backcountry town where she's destined to wind up wed or dead. All right, that was kind of fire. That was a good line. Wed or dead? Come on, that was good. Then she meets Jinn, a rakish foreigner, in a shooting contest and sees him as the perfect escape route. But though she spent years dreaming of leaving Dustwalk, she never imagined she'd gallop away on mystical horse, or that it would take a foreign fugitive to show her the heart of the desert she thought she knew. Okay, I can definitely see, just from that description, it gives me vibes of romantasy, but there has to be some underlying conflict that makes it into a trilogy. And maybe that's where book 2 then really takes off, as it ramps up into this bigger conflict. So I feel comfortable actually putting it at a 2, especially compared to Delirium, because one of my big hesitations with the Delirium series was how it, how the ratings decreased between books. The ratings only go up. So I feel comfortable putting it at 2. I don't think putting it as high as The Unwanteds, because again, The Unwanteds, I feel like there's a clear path of like what worlds can be explored, the conflicts that's going to go on. This, not exactly 100% sure. So I feel like 2, pretty good place to put it. All right, so our second stack of series is The Unwanteds at number 1, Rebel of the Sands number 2, Delirium number 3, Pretty Little Liars number 4, and then The Deal at number 5. All right, so the 7 series that did not make it into the rankings, but let me know if you do want to see me rank these, is Maximum Ride. I had people in middle school who read this. They they loved it, but I never read it, so I don't know how I would feel about it. I don't fully remember the concept except like people have wings. I don't know. Shatter Me, which I feel like is a classic dystopian series that a lot of people like, and I recently read a book by Tara Mafi, and I really did like it, so I am very curious to see what she does in this dystopian world. Then we have Hush Hush, which I know is kind of like a throwback series for a lot of people. I think people have like done like similar comparisons to Twilight for how the vibes of this series are, so that would be very interesting because I do like Twilight. The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, haven't really heard a thing about it. Know it's some pretty big movies, but I haven't even seen those. The American Royals I did cover for my 365 Days series. Seems like a lot of court politics, but I personally like court politics. One of Us is Lying. I've watched the TV show. I feel like I liked it, but it was so long ago. I would be interested to revisit this series. And then Fallen Kingdoms, zero clue about this one. Absolutely none. Got it in the book advent calendar, so I'm not sure how I would have even rated these. But I feel like Shatter Me is the one that's calling me the most over this whole stack. So maybe that's going to be one that I read sooner rather than later because I keep seeing it. And I am very curious about what that series holds. So as always with my ranking video, let's compare the two sets, put them together into one big list of 10. So The Unwanteds versus City of Bones. I'm giving it to The Unwanteds. This sounds absolutely magical and magnificent, and I can't wait to read this. City of Bones versus Rebel of the Sands. I'm going to give it to City of Bones. I see a clearer direction with how it becomes 6 books, just already with the hints that we've gotten from book 1. So I feel like that gives me a little more direction than Rebel of the Sands. And that's going to be similar with The Revenge of the Shadow King, why I'm putting it at 3rd. I feel like it has a clearer direction of being 3 books. I feel like I don't know enough about it that it pulled me in, but I am very curious on why these other books are like, I'm curious on why books 2 and 3 in this series are so highly rated. Between Splintered and Rebel of the Sands, I'm going to give it to Rebel of the Sands. I feel like the world is just a little bit more compelling in this one. I'm very curious to see the worlds that we travel in here. But this one, it seems like the world is pretty defined, at least in my head, being in a similar space to Alice in Wonderland. So I'm going to give it to Rebel of the Sands. Now, between Splintered and Delirium, this is, I think, the hardest one for me to pick because I find the world more compelling in Delirium. But I feel like the overall series will be better in Splintered. And so I'm going to give it to Splintered in this case. Then between I Tell You I Love You, but then I'd have to kill you, I'm going to give it to Delirium. I just think this world is a little bit more compelling, even though the books have like lower ratings as the series goes on. Between Pretty Little Liars and I Tell You I Love You, I'm going to give it to this one. I feel like the spy aspects are a little more interesting. And again, this is 16 books. This is very long. But I honestly think the Game of Thrones series is longer than Pretty Little Liars, and I really have no interest calling me with Game of Thrones, so I'm going to give it to Pretty Little Liars. And then again, zero interest in the Game of Thrones. I don't really have a lot of interest in the Deal either, but I feel like I could get through the Deal series a lot faster than I could get through Game of Thrones. All right, so here's my final rank of how I think I'm going to like these series reading them. We have The Unwanteds at the top, City of Bones is 2nd, Revenge of the Shadow King is 3rd, Rebel of the Sands is 4th, Splintered is 5th, Delirium is 6th, I Tell You I'd Love You, but then I have to kill you is 7, Pretty Little Liars is 8, The Deal is 9, and Game of Thrones is 10. So let me know what you think, especially if you've read some of those series. I am very curious to see more feedback on those. I am definitely interested in just continuously reading a series over the next couple of months. I'm already doing that with the Pendragon series, but that's a reread to kind of test if it's something that is sustainable for me. But now looking at some of these series, I'm very interested to get started in them. And if you're curious what I would have ranked the other series that I did not rank, let me know and I can probably do a separate video on that. And I think I might have more series laying around, but those are the ones that I could like quickly spot. And if you're interested in seeing this for standalone books, and again, ranking those that I have not read, definitely let me know. And I will see you next week for our readathon.